Whether you guys have 1,000 ringgit, 10,000 ringgit, or even 100,000 ringgit, it's always a good time to start investing now. It's never too little money or too late for you to start your investing journey. It's always better to start now than to delay it. I've been investing for years and I've made pretty much every single investing mistake out there. I've bought too many stocks, I've made the wrong investment decisions, I've been paying too much commissions, many things that I've done over the years. So today, I want to break it down for you guys. I want to split it into 3 tiers. How I will invest 1,000 ringgit, 10,000 ringgit, and 100,000 ringgit. At every level, each tier has a different mindset, different investment options, and also different mistakes that you should look out for. So let's get to it. So let's start off with the bottom tier, which is 1,000 ringgit. I'm gonna be really blunt with you guys here, but at this level, the returns on your investment, they don't really matter. The difference between earning 4% versus 10% on a 1,000 ringgit investment is 60 ringgit a year. 60 ringgit. Even if you did amazing, let's say, and you got a 30% return on your investment, that's still just 300 ringgit. I know 300 ringgit is still quite a lot of money, but if instead of focusing on investments, you focus on your job, trying to earn more money, you could get an increment that is way bigger than that. So what actually matters at this stage is for you guys to start building out your investment habit rather than focusing on getting the maximum returns. So personally, I would keep it simple. If you guys are Bumiputra, then just go for ASB, Amanah Saham Bumiputra. This is a fixed price investment, meaning that every 1 ringgit that you put in will always stay as 1 ringgit, and the way you generate returns is via dividends. So last year, they paid out dividends of 5.75%, which is way higher than any savings account or any fixed deposits out there. There are no fees to buy, no fees to sell. You don't have to have a minimum transaction or anything like that. It is completely easy and simple to set up. You can even make all your investments online via their app. If you guys are non-Bumi, then unfortunately you cannot go for ASB, but you can look at ASM, Amanah Saham Malaysia. So this one is as similar to ASB as there is out there. They gave out slightly lower returns. I think it was 5% last year, but it's still very good. The main problem with ASM is that the quota is limited, so you guys kind of have to fight for it. You have to check the ASB website every day to try and get your investments in. Sometimes the government will announce, an increase in quota for ASM. So when that happens, you guys gotta rush and get as much as you can. But I know it's not logical for you guys to just keep waiting. So alternatives will be money market funds that can pay you between 3 to 3.5%. Things like Versa Cash, Tashrey Simple, Touch and Go, Go Plus, all of these are options for you as well. Look, I know that money market funds will pay you less than something like ASB, but like I said, at this stage, your returns, they barely matter. 1.5% difference a year on 1,000 ringgit is just 15 ringgit. It really doesn't matter. You just want to start investing. So that's it for 1,000 ringgit. At this stage, you don't want to spend so much time, put in so much effort trying to figure out where you want to invest your money. Like I said, here you just want to build the habit of investing and leaving that money there. Not touching it, not withdrawing it when you want to go on holiday or anything like that. Even better if you guys can set up, recurring investments. So let's say every single month you make an investment towards ASB or money market funds or whatever it is that you chose. This is so you have that habit that every month I must invest at least a certain amount. The good thing is all of the options I gave you guys, there are no minimum investments, there are no transaction fees, so you can invest as little as 10 ringgit per month if that's all you can afford. Okay, let's move on to the next tier now, which is 10,000 ringgit. This is the level where you can start looking at many more investment options, and this is where it gets interesting. So we have the 1,000 ringgit base already working for us. Now we look at new opportunities. So one mistake that I made was that as soon as I had a good amount of money to invest, I can't remember the exact amount, but it was around 10,000 ringgit, I immediately decided that it's time for me to invest in stocks because I thought that was the real way of investing, and I've always been interested in investing in stocks ever since my uni days, but back then I didn't have money. The problem is that at the time I was buying in small amounts. I was buying in tranches of like between 100 to 500 ringgit. I don't know why, but I always feel like I want to invest in many different stocks instead of just 1 or 2 because it felt more fun, right? I can invest in many different companies, it feels more diversified, yada. But the problem with doing this is that when my investment value is so small, every time I make a transaction, I will pay a fixed commission fee and my commission rate will be extremely high. So my brokerage fee back then was, let's say, 4 ringgit per trade. The problem there is that if I invested just 100 ringgit, 4 ringgit is 4% of my total investment. Even if I invested 200 ringgit, it was still 2% of my total investment. And that is way too high of a fee to pay. And another problem I had was that I kept changing my mind about what stocks I wanted to invest in. Sometimes it was Maybank, sometimes it was Tenaga. So buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. I made so many transactions, I paid so much in commissions, and it just didn't make sense considering that my investment size was so small. The only people who benefited from all of this definitely wasn't me. It was my broker, and they were, I guess, pretty happy about it. So the lesson here is not really about whether you can invest in stocks or not, it's whether the math works out. To me, if you're going to be paying a commission, it should be less than 1% of your investment value, which I guess you could do with 10,000 ringgit, right? It's just that you'll have to limit yourself to maybe 1, 2, at maximum 3 different stocks. But knowing what I know today, how I would invest 10,000 ringgit is that I would prioritize robo-advisors. So things like Stashaway, Wahid Invest, Versa Invest, all of these are really good options. All you have to do is you have to pick a risk level, and then they will define the portfolio that is suitable for your goals and your risk tolerance. To me, this is extremely simple. The main benefit is that there are no transaction fees, there's only a management fee, meaning they only charge you a percentage of your investment value. This is fantastic because then you can invest 100 ringgit, 200 ringgit, 500 ringgit, it doesn't matter because they don't charge you for every investment that you make. Robo-advisors to me is a really good way for you to dip your toes into the world of investing into equities and for you to diversify beyond ASB and money market funds. And then you can also consider ETFs. They start entering the picture. You can invest into ETFs like VT, which will give you good global exposure all over the world. Or you can look at something like CSPX, which covers the S&P 500. These two options to me make a lot more sense than trying to invest into stocks at this level because they give you so much diversification on its own. So all you have to buy is this either 1 or 2 different ETFs, and your transaction cost will be a lot lower. If you wanted to invest, let's say, and you wanted to have a diversified portfolio, you wanted 5 to 10 different stocks, you'll be making a lot more smaller transactions, and like I said, your commissions will start to rack up. And then another thing that I tried at this level was P2P financing, which I quickly realized wasn't for me for 2 reasons. One is that it's so illiquid, we're essentially giving a loan to SMEs and then they'll pay it over time. And if my money is locked up for like 12, 18 months, that is a big deal considering that, our entire net worth is still so low. We want to have maximum liquidity. And another thing is that defaults can really eat up your returns if people can't pay back the loans. It will really be a significant chunk of our total investment. So that's another reason that, all of this didn't work out for me. But the main lesson that I want to tell you guys that, are in this tier of having 10,000 ringgit is that this is a stage that I would highly, highly recommend you start investing into stocks. And the reason for this is not so that you can become rich and become a millionaire in a few years' time. It's so that you get used to volatility. So initially, like I said, I recommended you guys invest into things like ASB, money market funds. Those are extremely safe and stable investments. You won't see the value of your portfolio go up and down every single day, right? Whereas once you get into the world of stocks, crypto, gold, all these things, they fluctuate in price every single day and they don't just go up day after day. Sometimes you'll be up, actually most of the times you'll be up, but there will be periods like we are in right now where your portfolio value will be down by 10%, 20%, maybe even 40%. And you don't want to have to experience this for the first time when your investment portfolio is already worth 500,000 ringgit. That's gonna make you panic for sure. So why you want to invest now is that you want to get a feel for these things. If let's say you got into a 20% drawdown and your investment is 10,000 ringgit, then you would be down 2,000 ringgit. Yes, it's painful, but it's not the end of the world, right? I think for most of us, that should be less than 1 month of our salary. But if we have the same 20% drawdown on a 500,000 ringgit portfolio, suddenly now we are down by 100,000 ringgit, which is a huge amount of money for any Malaysian. For most people, it will be more than 1 year of their total salary. And if we've never experienced that before, and we already have 500,000 ringgit in our investment account, then maybe we might panic. Maybe we might sell at the bottom and then everything goes back up. I've experienced this before myself, but the good thing is, at least it wasn't a lot of money for me back then. So the goal here isn't really to invest in stocks so that you can maximize returns. You want to invest in stocks so that you can get used to the volatility, to get used to the emotions, the feelings of losses, pain, and all that stuff, so you know what to expect as your portfolio value goes up and up and up. Trust me, this is really important to do early on. At the same time, you still want to keep your ASB as the stable or the foundational level of your portfolio. This is one mistake that I made. As soon as I started to get more and more money, I decided to quickly abandon ASB because to me the returns were too low. I wanted to invest into stocks where I can get like 10% a year instead, right? but it is very important for us to still have ASB as, sort of a safety net, so that in case we really need the cash, at least we don't have to sell our stock investments at a potential loss. We can always just take it from ASB without any penalty, without any losses. So if I could go back in time, I wouldn't say, everything should go into ASB because I want to be safe. Instead, I would say, a portion of my investments will go towards stocks, but I will still keep at least a small amount going towards ASB every single month. And then finally, we move on to the 100,000 ringgit tier. And again, we're gonna have a different mindset shift. We're gonna have a different problem to solve. Now, it's less about picking what is the best investment out there. Now it's about allocating your investments correctly so that no single investments can sort of destroy you. Things that will work for you naturally, it can scale up all the time, are robo-advisors that will still work no matter your net worth. Investing into ETFs to me will always work as well. Like I said, ETFs like VT, ETFs like S&P 500, CSPX, all these things, they're already so diversified. You're already invested into 500 different companies, 10,000 different companies. So you can always do it, you can always scale it, even when you get into the millions of ringgits in your portfolio. Commissions also will matter a lot less to you because now you're investing in bigger chunks. You're no longer investing 100 ringgit each time. You're maybe investing 5 to 10,000 ringgit every single time. So commissions as a percentage of your investment value will go way down, and it won't really be a big problem for you anymore. What becomes new at this level, I guess, is that diversification becomes more and more important. This is something that you will have to learn and try to understand. Look, if you have a portfolio of 10,000 ringgit, you can go all into Tesla, and if it works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, you lost 10,000 ringgit. Yeah, it's painful, but again, it's not the end of the world. You can quickly recover 10,000 ringgit. But once you hit 100,000 ringgit, 500,000 ringgit even, you don't want to go all into a single stock anymore, because if you were to lose that, that's a lot of money, a lot of years of hard work to try and build it back up. So you need to start thinking, for my equity investments, how do I spread it out? Should I consider some more fixed income? Should I consider bonds? Should I consider things like crypto, gold, real estate? All of these things you will have to start considering. For crypto, you can have a smaller allocation. I use Luno myself. If you guys want to sign up for Luno, then check out the link in the description of this video. I would allocate somewhere between 5, maybe 10% of your total portfolio at max. This to me is something where it's a moonshot bet, right? If it works out, fantastic. I'm gonna have 100% returns or whatever it is, and even though it's just 5% of my portfolio, because the returns are so big, it will still be meaningful. But at the same time, because it's only 5% of my portfolio, if everything goes to zero, at least I'm not wrecked. And then you can also consider gold as a hedge. This is, I guess, complementary or an alternative to Bitcoin. It's completely up to you which you want to go for. Gold has been performing extremely well over the last, I would say, 1 to 2 years. So yeah, would have been nice if you were already in before. Will it keep going up? Is it going to come crashing back down? I have no idea, but personally, I'm just going to continuously invest into gold every single month. The way I do it is I invest into gold via ETFs as well, because it's just a lot simpler. But you guys can go and buy physical gold if that's your thing. I think it's really inconvenient. But you can even look at things like buying digital gold on platforms like Maybank's Miga. And then there are really truly alternative investments like property. And I have to admit, this is not a sector where I have fully explored, but I know at a certain net worth, a lot of people like to consider investing into real estate. Honestly, even at 100,000 ringgit, this is not something you should even think of, because 100,000 ringgit is considered small in the property world when it comes to investments. I would say you need to have somewhere between 3 to 5 million and above. Then you start thinking about investing into properties. The main reason that I don't consider property is the opportunity cost. So to me, I can always invest into stocks and get similar-ish returns. I can sell my stock position at any time that I want, whereas property is a lot less liquid. Trying to find a buyer, the whole process, it takes a lot of time. So the core idea, once you have 100,000 ringgit or more, is less about trying to maximize your returns by taking on big risks. It's more about how do I protect my investments while at the same time still growing it consistently year over year. I've went through this myself. Back when I had 10,000 ringgit, even 20,000 ringgit, my only goal was to try to grow it as fast as possible. So I took on a lot of risks to try and do that. Luckily, it worked out for me. But once I hit 100,000 ringgit, the 6-figure mark in my portfolio value, then I realized I cannot have the same mindset anymore, because like I said, I can't afford to lose all of this money by making a bet that's too risky. Of course, I still want to grow my portfolio, I still want to grow my investments as fast as I can, but I need to balance it with the amount of risk that I'm willing to take. And I know that some people can do this, especially in the crypto world. They go from 10,000 to 100,000 to 1 million to 10 million really quickly. But that is just not something that I can handle, and I know that most people out there can't handle this as well. So really, at this stage, you want to think about diversification and starting to think about protecting your investment value. So yeah, that's basically the game plan at every level. At 1,000 ringgit, the main objective is to just build the habit. And then at 10,000 ringgit is when you start to explore alternative investments and start to get the reps in, experiencing drawdown, experiencing, losing in your investments. And then at 100,000 ringgit, it's really about diversification, it's about protecting your capital, while at the same time taking calculated risks to still grow it every single year. But the main thing that everyone needs to know is that when it comes to your investments, even though I tell you guys do this, do that, do this, do that, this is what I do, it is still, at the end of the day, a personal choice. The best investment plan that you can have is something that you can stick to. Even if, let's say, you have =1 million ringgit, if you don't feel comfortable investing into stocks because you don't like volatility, sure, go all into ASB, go all into money market funds, bonds, whatever it is, it's completely up to you. It might not be the most rational, it might not be the most optimal way to invest your money, but hey, at least you can stick to it. So let me know in the comments below, which tier are you guys in and what are you guys focusing on when it comes to your investments. Thanks for watching this video to the end, guys. If you guys want to start investing into stocks, ETFs, crypto, whatever it is, check out the links. I'll leave it in the description of this video. And when you guys use my referral link, you'll get some nice bonuses once you sign up and deposit. Thanks for watching this video to the end, guys. Give me a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.